Sal, we got some crazy happenings today with computer shenanigans. How you doing?
I know this is a little odd because I'm always have been on the show and everything looks good, and somehow we seems like we have gremlins inside the electronics today. So little odd.
Ghosts? Ghosts in the
Maybe.
machine. There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on, even outside the studio. People who maybe haven't seen you before should know that they can follow you on X. Tell everybody where they can find you, Sal.
Sure. So on X, I'm at the Sal Greco. The same on Instagram. Also, you go to the Finest Unfiltered on YouTube. Also, X streaming live. I have my show Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 01:05 p.m. Eastern. And I like to talk a lot about corruption, New York City, the NYPD, exposing Eric Adams. I also talk about politics, pop culture, sports, and I do touch up things about President Trump as well. Although I voted for him 3 times, I'm very critical of some of the things he does. I'm not a sycophant. I'm not paid to post things as other people do that claim they're in the same camp, we'll say.
Yeah, exactly. Independent journalism. The only people who pay you, Sal, are people who go and visit salgreco.com and go over to the support tab. Tap on that. You can support Sal's independent journalism and commentary. And we got a lot to discuss today, in addition to all of the craziness going on with the NYPD, Eric Adams. We got to talk about that press conference about the shooting on Park Avenue. But we want to discuss this confirmation of Emil Bove. You know, another thing that I hear you talk about quite frequently are these low information voters. And I see a lot of people who just don't know anything about Emil Bove, and they just, including some people in the Senate who just figured, well, Trump wants this guy. I think even Trump might fall into the category of low information voter. When it comes to Emil Bove, what can we say about this guy, Sal?
I'm going to tell you, when it comes to Emil Bove, right? We've talked a lot about him, and we brought up many of the not only inconsistencies but the outright, I know, unethical ways of his the way he's a lawyer. You know, he came on the scene through Boris Epstein, who was Trump's head of legal at the time, a guy that has no experience in any legal cases. He was in a law firm. He never tried a case, but somehow he was telling President Trump what to do. By the way, he came into power through Steve Bannon, who had him on his show. That's Jeffrey Epstein associate, Steve Bannon. So Boris Epstein brought him onto the legal team by getting rid of Joe Tacopina, who is a much more distinguished lawyer, and he's won numerous cases. So when he exited the Trump legal team, Trump's legal defense then became horrific, and he was found guilty everywhere. And Emil Bove was the mastermind of all of that. He was also part of the Southern District of New York, where his co-workers and subordinates find him, again, highly unethical, doing things that are, unbecoming of a man who's in charge of a unit. He also, at first, didn't want to prosecute January 6 people. Then he did prosecute January 6 people from New York. So, and then he became Trump's lawyer. And then he steps onto the scene here, Jason. And the connection here, we have Artie Aidala, who's the lawyer from Ghislaine Maxwell, also Steve Bannon, and very close, certainly friends of Eric Adams. He enters this scene. He's got cases in the Southern District of New York and New York State with representing Ingrid Lewis Martin, who was Eric Adams' right-hand woman. And then Emil Bove comes in, and he basically says, look, the Southern District of New York, I got everybody. If you don't listen to me or you don't do what we want, you're out. So 7 people resigned. One of them being...
You're talking now about the Eric Adams prosecution.
Correct.
He wanted to drop the prosecution, and the prosecutors... By the way, those prosecutors were painted in the news as being kind of Democrat operatives, but John McCarry, also on The Finest Unfiltered, the founder of The Finest Unfiltered, John told me that one of the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York that got kicked out was like an Afghanistan or an Iraq veteran. Do you know that guy?
Yep, that's the guy who's, first of all, he's a Republican, and B, he was a Army veteran. I think he even he was on a Supreme Court staff of the Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch. So he's a Republican. They were claiming, 7 Democrats. That's the quick MAGA headline. Anything, Trump's doing something we don't like, but we get paid to say otherwise. So they all jumped on that. And I knew right away something was up. He was also, I believe, the man in charge of the P. Diddy prosecution, which later on became Comey's daughter took that over from him because they all resigned because this guy Bove did some really unethical things that he shouldn't even have a law license. This guy he's mired in controversy his whole career, and he thinks that he walks on water. He had that look on his face during a confirmation hearing says it all. And then somehow the quid pro quo here is, first, there were notes that were missing. Right, there was an exchange where Emil Bove had to go in front of the judge. They called him into D.C. He had a meeting with Alex Spiro, who is Eric Adams' attorney at that time. And
we got to talk about that.
Yeah, and the prosecutors, one of them being this prosecutor who's the military veteran, and there were notes being written, and they confiscated these things. So you can't do that. That's actually evidence. So they basically resigned, and the quid pro quo is, there's no merits to dismissing Eric Adams' case, but he's helping us with immigration. But really, it's got to do more with crypto behind the scenes with Eric Adams, Trump's son, his sons, the family, also getting his name back on the Woolman Rink and the ferry links in the Bronx.
Oh, did they do that?
Well, yeah, they put in a bid. They put in. He was going to try to get his name back on it. There was discussions with the Trump organization.
Wow.
Eric Adams holds that. That's been reported. And also the ferry links in the Bronx. Bally's was trying to put a casino there, which would have gave a 9-figure payoff to the Trump family. And the person that stepped in was Eric Adams. And although the city council, rightfully so, has struck that down, Eric Adams can try to veto that. So once again, this isn't about immigration, which in New York City, Jason, if you don't know, the law is New York City, the municipalities and all the agencies there cannot cooperate with ICE. That was the law that was written in the 80s or 70s. And actually, Eric Adams, as the mayor, could have put a referendum on the ballot to have that go to the voters, who would have definitely voted not to be a sanctuary city. So because it is a sanctuary city, no cop can cooperate or they risk their job. Or possible prosecution by Alvin Bragg's office. So all of that made no sense other than there's a quid pro quo. And on top of that, Jason, was all of a sudden, Emil Bove was this hitman that got this through, even as unjust and unethical as it was. He's now a judge because all the Republicans, who I'm sick to my stomach, that no Republican, they're afraid of being chastised on Truth Social by this man, by Trump. That's what this is really all about. They're worried about, he's going to say something. I might lose my race. You got 3 more years of this guy, and you're never going to see him again. His approval ratings have actually plummeted because of the way he's handling Epstein's thing. Also, the Eric Adams thing was the beginning. There's a couple other issues. Yes, I know the tariffs are very good. I was for them. And when it comes to finances, the guy is a genius. And that's kind of what we voted for. When it comes to the law, he is quite the opposite. He is a novice. It's pretty pathetic and sad, actually. And he seeks no counsel and just listens to Boris Epstein, Emil Bove.
He seems to always get the worst possible attorneys, right? I mean,
correct.
We did a whole exploration into the possibility that Emil Bove and Todd Blanche might somehow have been manipulating Trump without him even understanding it. Even Alina Habba, who was in there somehow on the defense team, she's very for Emil Bove. And, in the Third Circuit, this is pretty interesting, Sal. Bove is now an appellate court judge in the Third Circuit, which covers New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. It's quite a broad range.
And it's in Delaware, Joe Biden. So if there's any cases that get appealed, they will end up in front of him. And this guy should be, he's have to recuse himself out of anything. So this guy's
But they're going to raise that argument. You're right.
Yeah, I would raise that immediately. And he's such a sycophant, and he's done so many awful things. And it's the only time I think we're going to agree with pencil neck Schiff, who had a right defense of this. And but people always put their feelings in the middle. Oh, he's a Democrat. Yeah, I know that. He's a criminal. I know that. But you know what? Just because those things are being said doesn't mean he's not wrong about what he's stating about Emil Bove. Here's an issue where a lot of people on both sides of the aisles are scratching their head saying, that guy shouldn't be a judge. And it was clear.
But one detail I wanna pick there with you is that Adam Schiff is not bringing up any of the reasons that you and I are discussing for Emil Bove. He is talking about this. It almost seems like Adam Schiff planted evidence against Emil Bove, where there's some letter that Emil Bove told him to say F you to the court or whatever. Adam Schiff won't go near any of the actual evidence about these problems with. For me, the biggest problem with Emil Bove is the letting off of Eric Adams, and I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah.
What does Eric Sanders say about all this? Because he's your attorney. He's a smart guy. He knows how New York City works. He knows how all this kind of police stuff works. What does he say about Emil Bove?
I'll tell you, both him and Serena were pretty disgusted being career lawyers, seeing how that went down and how now he's been rewarded for that behavior. And to go back, we'll go back to Schiff for a second, right? So he did say all these things, and there's actually a whistleblower that came forward and I believe provided a recording of what Bove was telling the prosecutors in the Southern District of New York when he wanted them to either put their signature, which really would be the end of their career, on dismissing this case with no merits to it, or they're going to get fired. So when MAGA people want, the whistleblower serves a purpose for them, for their narrative. Oh, they're the greatest. We need to protect them. When the whistleblower then goes against their God and their deity, apparently, and proves that what's going on here is highly corrupt and unethical, they demonize him and smear him. So in other words,
that goes,
at times
that
it's
goes
a sword.
Both ways.
The sword, we got to go after him, and then at other times it's a shield. Oh, no, he's one of us. So that's really highly despicable. Whistleblowers,
but that goes
everybody
both
needs
ways
to,
with whistleblowers.
It needs to be, but Jason, it needs to be heard. There's evidence. There's a lot of evidence this guy is a highly unethical individual. He's now a judge just to scare everybody in the country.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting. I don't know if you've been following this at all, but, Candace Owens is saying that the First Lady of France is a dude, and now she's getting sued for that. And that, for some reason, France sued her in Delaware. I don't know. Does Candace Owens live in Delaware? She might have to face off against Emil Bove at some point in the future as well.
Yeah. She'll be facing off with Emil Bove when it gets appealed. I don't know. In order to be defamatory, Jason, it's very hard to do this when you're a public figure. You need to prove that there's malice and consent, that you wanted to do this for malicious
You ignored
purpose.
the facts and everything. But wait a minute though, Sal, because see, first of all, you and I first connected because we're both getting put through the ringer. And I think you mostly have been through this police administrative court or something that's even different than district court or circuit court, probably even worse. I don't have any experience there. But you and I both have experience getting put through the ringer in court, and I think you would agree, correct me if I'm wrong, the law, the facts, what's supposed to happen, none of that seems to matter. It's just they have a design for what it is that's going to happen to somebody like you or me, or possibly in this case, Candace Owens or Eric Adams. They just decide what they want the outcome to be, and they seem to magically have some way to do that.
They seem to have a predetermined disposition, and they try to, I'd say, lure and lean into the jury to kind of coax them into believing whatever it is their predisposition is. So they did a lot of this. I mean, I was there for
Or
my
even
friend
manipulate the jury. They can pick who
Yeah.
they want to be on or not on the jury, and then you find out they're on drugs or they had some kind of can't read English, all kinds
Or
of
they
things.
were they're part of the same political party, or
Right.
they worked in the circles. I was witness to this and privy to this with Roger Stone's case. Roger's my friend. I was in D.C. with that, and there was so much injustice in that trial. And to go back and think, Jason, that's not like what's happening today, where Trump is talking about pardoning his two friends, Ghislaine Maxwell and P. Diddy, for crimes that they commit as victims. There's people that testified as women and men that were raped. And we got to pardon these people. And we're supposed to sit there and once again bow down to this guy like he's a deity. Roger's case was lying to Congress, yet they treated him as if he was a murderer. Therein lies the difference. Roger's case cost millions of dollars and was, I don't know why they even brought this case forward, right? Yet the Maxwell case and the P. Diddy case are very serious things, and they connected to very important people. And then you start to wonder, well, are people compromised? Meaning people in the Trump administration right now, are they compromised? Why are we talking about pardoning these people that literally had people abused, sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, and raped? And in some instances, we don't know. Some people are no longer here. We don't know why, and it's all questionable circumstances. And I'm not trying to make this a conspiratorial thing, but now we're supposed to forget all about that. Everything is a political witch hunt in their mind. The Trump defense is now everyone's defense. And under that means there's no law anymore, except for you or I, small people on the totem pole, on the very bottom with little spokes on the wheel. And the big ones that are running the wheel, they'll deem what's right and what's wrong. So in the end, they're playing God. This is all for nothing because we're just little spokes in the wheel. And luckily, hopefully, they don't pick on you out of nowhere, because if they do, you'll end up like myself, like Jason, like John McCarry, like Eric Dim, like Marlon Bethel, like Roger Stone, like all these people that they go after, and you're at the end going, well, these guys weren't what they said they are. They didn't do anything, but they just so happen to end up in the wrong orbit of these people that are in charge. Meanwhile, their friends are committing serious crimes, and when finally someone does something about, it's political. It's political. No, nothing to see here. But wasn't Roger Stone's thing political? Wasn't my thing political? Isn't your thing political? Can't use that defense, though, Jason, because you're not Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein, P. Diddy, Eric Adams. You're none of these people. So you don't matter, Jason. But go vote for these people. Don't forget to do that. Vote for them.
It is pretty outrageous what they're talking about. I mean, the concept that Trump would even consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell or P. Diddy, I really don't understand that. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell, we know. Sal, I mean...
Even I know how he likes to troll people. It's time to be serious. There's a time to joke. Trump right now, his administration is in an upheaval. It's just like Eric Adams. Why? You have Pam Bondi, who has 1 million criminal referrals on her desk. They just go there to die, apparently. Her desk must be stacked with criminal referrals. We heard to Letitia James. We've heard all these people.
Right.
What happened? Nothing's happening. He's got 2 podcasters that made a career and were grifting off the fact of, we need accountability with Epstein. Please don't forget about it. Oh, and then the other one was, if we get in, we're going to unveil all this stuff. That's Kash Patel and Dan Bongino.
Yeah.
And now they're FBI director and deputy director. And then they had this long face. There's nothing. I've seen the file. There's nothing there. We've seen the video. The video was released with a minute missing. I mean, it's just
I think they said 3 minutes missing now.
This is like a right-wing Joe Biden administration, and everyone just has to praise the king. That's the leader. And I'm not for that. And that's how, I'm not the only one, Jason. I was there in the beginning in 2015. I was a cop. I went to Trump Tower. I was about to become a volunteer for the campaign until I realized in the NYPD patrol guide and it is administrative stuff, you technically can't be on a campaign while being a police officer. You have to resign temporarily. So I didn't end up going through. I never showed up. I didn't do anything. That's how much I believed in the man and the mission and the agenda. You fast forward this 11 years later, Jason, this is like a carnival act that's gotten old real quick. That's how I see it. It's old. It's stale at certain areas. And what I believe in is the people. When you say America first, the MAGA agenda, yeah, I believe in that. I'm wavering on the man leading the charge because at times he's great and other times you're scratching your head like this. And I'm not saying this to, I'm not a sycophant and I'm calling it the way it is. And people will say, oh, you could have a President Kamala Harris. Yeah, he was the better choice of what you had in front of you. Right. But is he the best choice to lead this entire agenda? I don't know. Well,
and is he even doing what he promised that he would do? I mean, I agree with you about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. What are they waiting for? What are they waiting for with Letitia James? The thing that doesn't make sense to me, Sal, is that so Trump. I mean, look, if somebody tried to shoot you, and then you became the most powerful law enforcement guy in the country, wouldn't you want to know what the hell was going on with that? And he said he is satisfied with the investigation. I don't understand that.
I'm in the same boat as you. That would be one of the first things I want to know about is what happened that day. Why was I left to be killed by Secret Service? And I get it. Listen, and if you're going to say, well, some of this stuff will be damaging at the world stage and people, you know what? Whether you tell the truth today, tomorrow, 20 years from now, people need to hear the transparent and accountability of what's going on, which is why we have all these problems. They've slowly now released a lot of the JFK files, the RFK files, the Martin Luther King files. So you're seeing about what happened during that time, which has led to all of this, right? They talk about a deep state. We talk about what we really are talking about is career bureaucrats hanging out in these agencies, right? That's what's been going on, and they all cover for each other. If you're not willing to unveil the whole thing, then you're just kicking a can down the roads to our children, our children's children, their children. It'll never end. It's a vicious, never-ending cycle. And if it ends up imploding everything or not, I mean, doesn't it say, let the truth set you free? I mean, even God said this in the Bible at certain points. You need transparency. So if what he's going to say ends up destroying the economy, then the economy is going to get destroyed 5 years from now when someone leaks a document that shows all these different things we're discussing now that we're wondering 5 years ago, what happened there? The government did what? Someone's going to do it eventually. Whether it cost them their life or not, someone's going to say, I know something. Someone on a deathbed, Jason, someone on a deathbed could say, I work for the government. All these things happen. Here's all the evidence, and they croak. And then you do what you want with that. Just say the truth. This Epstein thing is, I don't think Trump is personally involved. I know he's probably the most pictured politician with this guy at this point. But it's a trap because like Owen Schroyer and me were talking about on my show, it's like they're hanging some kind of carrot over this guy's head and saying, oh, Epstein with Trump. He just knew the guy. Nobody knows. It's like if you and me hang out with someone and then we find out 2 years later, oh, this guy was having some secret party with children. We didn't know that. We were with him. He never discussed this. So Trump didn't know this, and they're making it as if he knew about it. The real problem was not Trump with Epstein. The problem is his people, as public officials, officially went on record and said, the files are on the desk. We're going to release this.
Right.
Bongino, all these guys, and that's what people are upset about. They want transparency. No one likes a liar. That's why Eric Adams will never be elected mayor again. They don't like liars. Stop lying to people. And we thought Trump was this guy that was always telling the truth. And now you're seeing that. I don't know about that because he's either.
Well, certainly his handling of it, it doesn't appear to be super truthful. And I think that's the problem that most people have. It's like, okay, look, I tend to agree with you. I think if there was stuff implicating Trump, Talk about
Would've been out
Epstein for
already.
12 years or something,
Yeah.
right? You would know about it already, but yet Trump seems to stick both feet in his mouth by saying things. You're like, wait a minute, what the hell did you just say?
And that's a problem, Jason. He's got the problem where he's got diarrhea of the mouth. And sometimes it's nice to be serious, just be serious for once. And then other times, be who you are where you're joking around. With this thing, you do not joke around about. There were people that are victims, people that are killed themselves, people that are no longer here, that died under mysterious circumstances. And, I don't know what he's doing, covering for his own administration. I don't know.
It's the flip-flopping. The FBI saying there is no video, but wait, we saw you on the island clearing out the house. Somebody had a drone looking in the window. What did you take out of the house? What about that guy, Mark Ricari, who was a police detective in Palm Beach who uploaded footage to John Mark Dugan's server and then mysteriously died at age 50? That guy was investigating Epstein. How could there be no video? And they're like, oh, well, it's child porn. Come on. Ricari wouldn't just be uploading child porn to John Mark Dugan's server. John Mark Dugan, for people who might not know, was a Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy who created a whistleblower site called PBSO Talk, which allowed people in the police department to upload evidence of police corruption without fear of reprisals. Because, I mean, look, you've seen what happens when you get crossways with the police. That's no joke. And Ricari mysteriously died right after that. John Mark Dugan got chased out of town, and he claims that he was contacted by Seth Rich. Seth Rich asked him to create DC leaks. They're talking all about DC leaks and all these documents that we're hearing about coming out. Kash Patel apparently has found a secret room with burn bags. I mean, doesn't this, it seems like a soap opera, right? Secret rooms and all this and that. Why don't we this has got to just all come out.
I would just say in one big file swoop, this is what happened, this is what it is, and you lay it out there to the American people. And whether this shows some people that you liked or respected in a very bad light, or whether this shows, oh my God, this is what the government's up to or they were doing, so be it. Because the more you withhold it, the more the public outcry turns against you. And there's polls, I keep telling you, show that Trump is underwater. Now, he's going to say he has a 90% approval rating with Republicans. There's more registered Democrats in this country, and also independents are on the rise. It doesn't account for that. So we know Democrats hate him, Republicans love him. Where do the independents lie? And the independents are the ones that are thinkers, and they're intellectuals, and they're saying to themselves, what the hell is this? I voted for this guy. He promises the world. We felt bad. Yeah, he got shot. The greatest wrestler of all time came out and said he was, let's make America great again with Hulkamania and Trumpamania. And now I got this. What the hell is this? And that's what a lot of people are saying to me, Jason. I'm not in that sycophant club like someone we know that was on an unhinged rant claiming that a man that was involved in a shooting in New York City was some kind of Mamdani supporting terrorist from Islamic terrorist, which he wasn't. He was a guy who lost his marbles playing football.
We got to talk about that shooting. But wait a minute. Before we go to that, because you're talking about a lot of stuff with, voting and what's going to happen next with Trump. Aren't we, Sal, before we go on to the shooting, because there is a lot to discuss there, aren't we possibly facing, this technical problem is chasing us here too, because now we can't.
I only see a black screen in front of me, but.
Is that right? Because you know what happened is that I'm using my phone and I left it on cellular. So now we're in my apartment with terrible cellular reception, and I'm worried if I try to turn that off, it's going to completely kill the broadcast. I'm going to try something right now. Okay.
It's a shame as I see
maybe that'll help us. We should be on just Wi-Fi now, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. What I want to get to is you're talking a bit about the political fallout of what's happening with Trump. My concern is he is the president right now, and if he's doing things that are not in line with the agenda that everybody voted for and that what we need him to be doing, isn't it possible that we are going to get supremely jammed up? Wait a second here. We got to get display one. Okay. This is what I'm worried about, Sal. because Trump, he set a new deadline for Russia. I mean, he's being a little bit of a bully with a nuclear armed Putin. And I don't understand. He was supposed to end this Ukraine war in the first 24 hours. He hasn't done that. I'm more concerned about these kind of failures than I am with worrying about what Democrats are going to say or do in the midterms or everything like that. We already saw a major screw up with Eric Adams being left off the hook. What do we think about this?
Yeah, I think, it was a good idea. Oh, we're going to end that war in Russia, and he's trying to project strength, but in reality, that could never happen. Those guys.
But shouldn't he have told Zelensky, look, you can't just cancel the elections and we're sending you billions of dollars. You got to step down. We got to have an election in Ukraine next week overseen by the UN, including Russia. Couldn't he have come to the table saying that and maybe get Putin to say, hey, now we're talking? It's all this pressure from everybody who suddenly thinks that Ukraine is our ally and they want to put Ukraine into NATO. I don't think so.
There's a lot going on there, and that there's other interests. You have special interests that love the war because they're going in and then they rebuild everything. You have Lindsey Graham. You have all these people. It's just not Trump. He's kind of handcuffed in that, kind of like a mayor or a governor you deal with, the state legislator or the city council. And in his instance, he's dealing with Congress and the Senate, and those people have special interests bearing down on them, and they love war, because it keeps giving them money, and money is good for them. So they want this to never end. And so if they keep these guys at war, hating each other, well, then the money continues. The minute it stops, no more free rides. So they're going to step in and go tell Trump, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But if he's worried about anything in the future, his impeachment would be already set if he loses the House because of Eric Adams. So if he's worried about that, he could thank himself for stepping on a banana peel with that one. So that part is already sealed. You can only hope that the Republicans maintain control of the Senate and the House, predominantly the House. He will. That impeachment hearing this time around will not center around all this other stuff. You really have a lot of material on the golf course in the Bronx. We have the Eric Adams' own case being let off. You then have the name on the Woolman ring. These are all unethical things that if there's any communications, his sons are an easy target. It's just stupid that he went ahead and went through with this. No one, and the crypto thing. There's a guy on trial right now, the lawyer that was a big donor to Eric Adams and had Eric Adams' personal NYPD security. One of his main guys abduct someone, one of these Italian crypto guys, and abduct them and torture them at his house. While that trial is going on, the whole crypto thing is being ignored. Trump is huge into crypto. He wasn't. Now he is. His sons, Eric Trump, another crypto guy with his other son, Donald Trump Jr., and talk very highly about Eric Adams. Oh, he didn't hurt my family when he could. And he's buddies with Boris Epstein, who's buddies with Emil Bove. And his circle gets bigger and bigger. Artie Idala and Steve Bannon and the young Republicans at that time, not anymore. So the whole thing, I could easily, and I'm not even a lawyer, I could already draw up where I would. The whole thing, and I'm not even a lawyer, Democrats have been doing it since they already knew about it. If they win, he's in serious trouble. Him personally, he's going to be dealing with. They're going to handicap him basically, and so ends MAGA. The tombstone would be, "Thank you, Eric Adams." Why you got involved? Because of personal greed. That's how I see it. Now, in other retrospects, he's got very limited time to end this thing in Israel and Iran and Ukraine and Russia. Those two things might save him in the event of an impeachment, that he thwarted a war. He's the president of peace. So far, it doesn't end. They want to kill each other. They keep screaming and yelling at each other. We keep sending money to Ukraine. Now we're sending money to Israel. Then you have this thing in Gaza. And when does this end? And I thought he was going to be able to do that He hasn't been able to do that yet. But he's quick to say vote for Eric Adams. He's a great guy in New York City, and there's all kinds of corruption and also foreign ties with him to other venues.
Let's take it back to New York, because we got to talk about this shooting on Park Avenue just the other day. And John McCurry has posted this video of this was a press conference. So there's an active campaign by the Adams crime family to undermine his record-shattering fourth NYPD commissioner, soccer mom Jessica Tisch. Former interim police commissioner Tom Donlin isn't lying. And so talking about this press conference here, has he got audio on this that we should listen to?
It's not so much the audio. It's the fact that if you notice, she has a binder. That binder are all the notes that she's been given by all her, units. So she's able to tell people what's going on with that case. In our opinion, what's going on, as you could tell in that video, first off, Kaz Daughtry has his eyes on it, and so does John Schell. They want that binder. Kaz Daughtry tried to go for it. The binder, what it is the info. What's the info in there would mean whatever is in there, they can then leak to the press or jump in front of cameras themselves, because they're all self-impressed people, starting with Kaz Daughtry, to then go in the press and make it look like, oh, well, we're going to do this, and I did this, and I did this, and he did that, and that's what they do. Whereas you see that the soccer mom was smart enough that even when she walks by Tanya Kinsella tries to grab the binder, but she smartly put the binder on her right side. She is the first deputy commissioner. She was the one in charge of all the overtime, by the way. The overtime scandal, she is in charge of that, technically. She went to the budget, the city council, and at the budget hearing, she said it. I'm supposed to do the checks. So then how did people get, basically a sex scandal and people getting paid to do all kinds of stuff you're in charge of? So she is at the end trying to grab the binder, but as you could see, as the video keeps playing, Tisch puts the binder on her right side because she walks by her on her left. So the three vultures and piranhas, Kinsella, Daughtry, and Schell, are trying to grab that binder so that they can run around and do whatever it is. They're going to go in the media and, oh, look at me.
Well, wait a minute. We don't know.
Being drunk.
We can't say why. We can't say what's motivating them. We can speculate about it, of course. But what you are describing in great detail is the structure around Eric Adams and their ongoing effort to control information as it gets to the police commissioner and subsequently to the public. They want to control that information, is what you're telling us.
And it's not even at this point. It is sort of speculation, but in reality, because of what we have now known through these lawsuits, through Serena Townsend's lawsuits with the four executives, with John Scola's lawsuit via Tom Donlin, the former police commissioner, and from what I told you, what I've uncovered, what John and Eric have uncovered in the Finance and Filtered along with Marlon Bethel, all of it's true. They are actually doing what I've been telling everyone. And this
is John Schell right here, isn't it, Sal? You see this?
Yeah, he's on the left side. He's wearing
but look at this
the flag
symbol he's making with his hands here as he walks by. Is a hand signal to somebody?
Yeah, he might be. Him and Kaz Daughtry are in on whatever it is they're trying to do with that binder. They want that binder because the binder gives all the info they need. They're probably not briefed at that level because they're not the police commissioner. They want to be. But the police commissioner they get all the intel on any issue they want, just like that, especially a major one. Only the police commissioner gets all these fine details, even some briefings if it has to do with federal agencies. So if the FBI was there, ATF was there, all that stuff is going to be in that binder. So here they come looking to take that binder from her, which is sick. This is Adam, and Eric Adams does nothing. Eric Adams
You've told us that John Schell, his thing is to control the narrative, right? Correct. That was Schell.
Yep, him, and he does it through his bootlicker, another guy that was on there screaming about, Eric is a terrorist attack. It's not a terrorist attack. It's the first one to be a domestic terrorist, but Oren Levi was trying to say that it is a jihadist.
Well, he was out front. The first image I saw when this happened was from Oren Levi. And I found that very interesting because you also separately had a conversation with Eric Sanders about how the CRT, which I think is the Community Response Team, is that what CRT stands for? So Eric Sanders was saying that that seems to be very much like the street crime unit from back in the day when Eric Sanders was a NYPD officer, and that street crime unit is something that you and I have spoken about. It was a pretty secretive and strange thing, which admitted that it was using civilians and actors as some kind of undercover something or other. And see, when I see morons like Oren Levi, this is the Randall's Island street crime unit. They even show in their little logo here, this is an old lady dressed up with a cane. So somehow they're using actors and civilians just dressed in bizarre costumes to do what? We don't really know. Undercover stuff. And when I see morons like Uniska Wahalakano, who goes by Crackhead Barney, and I see idiots like Oren Levi come up to me and tell me their name is John, I think what you and Eric Sanders are talking about starts to make a lot of sense in my mind, that this is some kind of civilian augmented undercover unit that is being used by John Schell and some of these other corrupt individuals within the NYPD to control the narrative. Now, let me ask you something else about here, because again, we can really only speculate about this stuff. We have no idea. We're looking through a keyhole at information that's coming out. This is an image of the dead guy, well, the shooter, in an office. Now, Sal, I don't know. I don't want to get to anything sensitive. I'm not asking you about anything you've done, but have you ever been responding to a scene where somebody is dead and has been shot? I would imagine they bleed a lot, right?
Yes. The thing is, it doesn't show you because it's blurred. I believe he shot himself in the chest.
Wouldn't there be a ton of blood if he did that?
Well, here's the thing. You can't see it. It's distorted. So you don't know if there's a pool of blood forming. But if he shot himself in the chest, you don't know if he fell forward, which would cover it, or did he fall back.
But he's on his back there. I got another image of that.
I can't really tell because it's distorted.
We have images where he's not. This is
you need to see the image of if he's forward or back. So if he's forward and you shot yourself in the chest, and I believe it was a silencer on that too. So that would go.
Can you have a silencer on an AR-15?
I think that was one of the things they said is there's a silence. I remember hearing the transmission on the NYPD.
Doesn't that make it longer? How is he shooting himself in the chest with a silencer on an AR-15?
They did say they found the second gun. I just don't know if they said it was in the car or not. It might have been in the car. It might have been on his person. He had a secondary weapon. So
because the other question is, who took that picture in the office? Because if you're in an office and somebody is shooting, I think you're ducking and hiding, and it's going to take a little while of the gunfire stopping before you even poke your head out.
I think it's a surveillance camera, just a still shot. I think that's what it could be to me. It's a camera that's in there that somebody just took a shot to say, hey, look.
Well, that makes sense that they would have a surveillance camera because, see, the other thing that's super weird about this, Sal, I don't know when's the last time you went into an office building in New York City, but even in like 2013, you couldn't just walk into 21st century 3D. And this was like the crappiest office building on 8th Avenue in a tiny, we had a lock, remote lock on the door where you had to radio in. Let me show you this. So I can't find the unblurred picture, but there's no blood whatsoever on the guy's chest, no blood on the carpet. Wouldn't it be running all over on the carpet? And every single photo we see of a dead guy, the gun is perfectly in his hand. If he shot himself, wouldn't the gun go flying away from him and not be right next to his hand? But look at this. Here's this desk, right? Can you see this clearly? We've got a wood shelf on this desk that appears to be about 10 to 12 inches below the height of the top of this reception desk. Do you see that? This is like a desk somebody's sitting at with a chair, and it's a panel, and then above that, it's almost like a bank teller.
Yeah, it's like an office. I don't know exactly what's on that 33rd floor. Is it Blackstone or the Redden Company?
It's the Rudden Company. But look at
They
this,
run a-
because here is in the lower portion of this image, okay, we've got this edge basically lined up perfectly with this. This thing is displaying very anomalous depth cues. People have pointed out there's some strange things about this photo. Now, if it came from a surveillance camera, I would think that there's video there. One of the things that's interesting about this 345 Park Ave is that they have one of the most advanced network systems of any building in New York. It's called CBRS or something like that, the Civilian Broadcast Radio System. Let me see if I can find this for you, because it didn't make any sense to me. Yeah, here it is. This is a press release which is talking about how in 2021 they've installed this. Rudden family launches one of the first multi-tenant CBRS networks at 345 Park Avenue. And what this is it's a very sophisticated wireless network that allows you to have secure areas that can't be interfered with by police or military, and you can have a section of it that is kind of blocked off for police and military or first responders, and another section for data, and another section for something else. So there's a very sophisticated network in this building, and somebody who works in the building contacted me and said, you can't just go into any office. There's a very complex key card and cell phone access system in this building, where the 33rd floor is apparently the only floor that doesn't have this. So it's really highly suggestive that this guy knew where he was going. I mean, it was interesting to see you and Eric Dim talking about this yesterday from the standpoint of police officers who know people who do this kind of paid detail. There was that officer, Islam, I think his name is, who was killed in the lobby. He's working there as a security guard, but the thing is, the guy just walks in like Schwarzenegger, shoots his way into the building, and then he's all the way up to the 33rd floor. We hear this nonsense story that he's angry at the NFL. Well, the NFL is located on the 5th floor. And I mean, really, do we think the guy's driving from Vegas to New York because he's mad at the NFL? He was never an NFL player. He was a high school football player. I think he was a running back. Aren't these brain injuries happening to like the linemen, and people are getting their heads smashed into all the time? This seems like a completely stupid story. Control the narrative, right? One of the other first videos that I saw was from freedomnews.tv, showing a guy in a brand new, looks like he just got it that day, Free Palestine shirt, hasn't been sweated in, hasn't been through the laundry, it doesn't even look like. The police arrest him. Freedom News TV is right there. They capture it. They release that video, or when Levi releases the video, we got this narrative going that this is somehow a Palestine-Israel thing. The Rudden family is Jewish. This woman who was killed is Jewish. Fuels the fire of this Israel versus Palestine, Palestine versus Israel. Isn't this controlling the narrative? If somebody wanted to kill somebody in that building, that's a billionaire building. If somebody just shoots somebody in the office, there's going to be a huge NYPD murder investigation as to who that was, why they got shot, etc. But if we have all this national media of this dude walking into the building, shooting up Park Avenue and, you know, whatever, no one's really investigating the individual deaths. It gets lumped into this guy shot him, and that's it.
I think, though, so I understand that in this building, which is a problem because of the paid detail, right? So the police officers that do paid detail are not equipped with the information they should have, because the police department didn't give it to them because they're supposed to know. That building houses a lot of different entities or agencies, and you need to inform the officers that are in the building of any potential threats they have, because I'm sure each company has a threat against them, albeit whether it's a soft one or a harder one. They should know, because they need to be attentive at all times. They also need to know, I guess, access to the building He went to the 33rd floor, if I'm not mistaken. You just stated the only floor you could walk in and use the elevator to go to. He
How did he
can't
know
go to
that?
the 5th floor. You know, the
Right.
elevator won't work. So if that's the case, then why is this nobody informing the officers that are in the area or working this pay detail that, you need to have access to the other floors because things could happen, or you need to know that there's a threat on the NFL, or I guarantee you they didn't have any. They did
Well,
not
nobody knew there
relay
was a
any
threat
info
on
to.
the NFL. The theory I'm exploring is that the threat on the NFL is a controlled narrative, a John Shell style control the narrative. Just create all of this confusing information, put out all of this confusing media.
think
look at this, Sal.
I think you're on
Forget
the
ab-
right track. I just think that it's the flip flop. The controller narrative is he's an Islamic terrorist. That is false.
Well, that's part of it. But wait a minute.
False.
There's a lot of confusing media. Like,
he was
look at this.
He was a
Look
security
at this,
guy.
Sal.
He had
Hang
a
on a second.
license in Las Vegas.
Exactly. That's interesting, too. Maybe he's a paid assassin trying to kill somebody, and they
Which,
tell
by
him
the
go
way,
up to the
Jason,
33rd floor.
yesterday nobody's saying anything, but the same sort of incident occurred in Las Vegas at the same
Really?
time. There was an incident in Las Vegas that was like this. Something had happened like this, and then the guy from Vegas goes to New York and does what happened in Vegas. So it's like, now there is something that nobody's even discussing because they're too busy trying to make it about Israel and Palestine, which has nothing to do with an African-American guy
Oh, no,
who
no.
played football
You were saying in
running around
Reno.
with an AR-15.
Not Las Vegas. It was in Reno, Nevada, that there was a
Nevada,
shooting.
I'm sorry, but it's the same state, Nevada.
You're right.
He's from Nevada.
I did hear about that. That was
Yep.
interesting. And you're right. There's a remarkably small amount of reporting on that shooting. So see, that's another thing that I noticed was that they closed down a huge section in Midtown after this happened. And if
Which
you
I
wanted
credit
to do,
you. I credit you because your walk and talks, which are things that are of legend now, and you started an
Thank
entire
you.
trend of other people that copy you, and I don't want to give you credit for that. But your walk and talks, which you were able to now do at night, showed the length of this crime scene, which was pretty big, because the guy told you have to go around, you got to go this way,
Yeah.
even though it occurred in a building. So that's a pretty big crime scene.
if somebody wanted to do something around in the neighborhood, that's a lot of police distracted. There's a lot of distracting information around this is what I'm trying to get to. And setting aside your police experience, I'm sure you've moved furniture. I have. This is a hell of a lot of furniture to move in front of the door, even in 2 hours. From the time this shooting started at 6:30, there's 3 guys in this office. They moved all this furniture in front of the door like that? Maybe. And then somebody took a picture of that?
Yeah,
It's
I'd
weird.
say this, that, well, I don't know what time to take the picture. Could have been an hour. If you think your life is in jeopardy and
You're
you're
gonna move
willing to do
furniture.
anything, I'm telling you, you would probably do a lot more than you probably would on a normal day. You probably have the superhuman strength of
But
the
even
Incredible
so,
Hulk to try to save yourself.
Come on now. You're talking about couches moving around these cubicles. I mean, maybe these are light. They lifted them over their heads and stuff like that. I guess it's possible. But this is just weird to me. And this photo comes out I'm looking at the media that came out, the timing that it came out. We've really, it's not like a million photos have come out now. There's 5 or 6 photos that we've
Why
seen
is it
that tell a story.
All these people came out and said it was a Middle Eastern man. CNN, John Miller, who was a deputy commissioner at one point in the NYPD, called him a male white, which no one ever said he was a male white. Then you have people that we know drumming up that this was a Mamdani a Mamdani supporter who hates cops. That is that no one's ever said that. Not even in this guy's manifesto did he say anything about Mamdani.
Well, that's another question.
cops.
The manifesto. Let me ask you this. When you were NYPD, did you respond to a lot of murders?
I've been at a few murders. I would definitely go to shootings, things like that, stabbings. So I've been at the scene. I know what you're going to get at. Do these people leave
Manifestos? It seems weird.
But this seems to be, here's the thing. Even in death, some of these people want to be remembered for something, and then clout chase, even though they're not breathing anymore for it. So leaving a manifesto seems to be something a lot of these people in the last couple of decades is getting stronger now. So we're going to go do some crazy thing, and I'm going to leave a note. Even the guy, there was a guy who did a mass shooting in Buffalo, if you remember. He had something to say. He was a gamer or something. All these people always have, oh, I'm going to leave you a manifesto of whatever.
But I feel like it's only the ones we hear about on the news. I don't know. The whole manifesto thing, to me, it feels very much like a very contrived, I don't know. The FBI wants to, and see, because the other thing is George Webb's brother wants articles that I write to be manifestos. It's almost like this is something they want to attach onto people. I mean, everybody knows that I'm putting articles on X. People who follow me at JG_CSTT have probably seen some of the articles that I've written. And my point is, if I put up an article here, whether it's about, we had one article here talking about Commissioner Carrick being a victim of lawfare. Is this a manifesto? I mean, these are news articles that I'm writing about corruption among these judges and things like that. Letitia James, I've got this whole article about evidence that suggests that she faked her father's death to hide a mortgage scam. And for some reason, George Webb's brother wants to convince the court that my article about how Barack Obama, Adam Sharp, and Valerie Caproni inserted the FBI into Twitter, he wants to call it a manifesto. So in my view, this is a very unusual thing that when somebody, I don't know, this strikes me as a paid hit, Sal. The guy walks into the office building, kills the security guards in the lobby. That makes sense. You want to gain access to the building. He knows the 33rd floor. I allege he would know the 33rd floor is the only floor you can go to. The first day I was hearing there were 5 victims. Now we're hearing 4. My point is, if a billionaire wants to kill somebody, we already know that if a billionaire wants Jason to get choked on the street, you're not getting any of that evidence into court. The police are going to write Jason a ticket. Even though they write on the ticket, they know the person who did the choking. You're not going to get the identity. Jason's going to get a ticket. It's going to go to district court. They don't want to hear about the evidence. They dismiss it. It goes to the Second Circuit. We'll see if they dismiss it. But we've got a billionaire with private security, Elon Musk, had security guards who all but admitted they worked for Elon Musk, showed concealed carry guns printing in the small of their backs. Why are these guys allowed to have concealed carry? My point is, if the mayor is an arch criminal and you are a billionaire and you want to do some crime, does he have a litany of peons around him and minions around him like John Shell, like Kaz Daughtry, who can snatch that book, who can control the information that gets out to the public, who can craft a narrative, give all that information to the press, and make you think something went on in that building that has nothing to do with what actually went on?
Yeah, and I say this, right? Eric Adams, the reason, first of all, this all occurred under Eric Adams. I know, again, there were some people on social media that made this about Zohran Mamdani, who is a candidate for mayor. He's not the mayor. The mayor is Eric Adams, who has defunded the police through attrition. And by the way, the CRC team, which falls under the Counterterrorism Bureau, which you would have seen, those were the guys when you'd see 10 cars lined up one after the other, and then they break off and you'll see a few cops in front of one location and move to another location. Eric Adams defunded that. Why? To fund the migrant crisis, he calls it. The migrants are the people, that's his favorite voting bloc. That's what he wants, because he never put the referendum on the ballot. This falls on Eric Adams. He is the mayor. This is now what? That's 2 incidences in 1 year. You had this mass shooting, and you had the Luigi Mangione incident. He jumped in front of that one. He destroyed that case. That guy should walk because of him. And on this one, he's trying to, I see him doing media tours, and he makes it about himself like he always does. My son, me. You have an officer, one of yours, that perished doing his job, and you're making it about yourself, and he's making it about being a gun grabber, by the way. He is not MAGA.
Oh, exactly.
He is. Listen, I am saying that there's a lot of evidence that proves there's some kind of shenanigans going on in the background between him and the Trump family. He's the mayor. If he's not the mayor, that disappears. So they're going to try to do everything to get this clown elected. And this politicization of this murder of this officer is disgraceful. And the Trump surrogates out there, the MAGA crowd, whether they really talk to Trump or not, or whatever the case is, running around saying that Mamdani wasn't even in the country. He's not even the mayor, and this has nothing to do with him or his supporters. I don't like what he's saying, his policies, and I'm trying to defeat him by presenting policies like Curtis Lewa's policies that beat Mamdani's policies. And that Mamdani's policies are the same as the guy who's in charge now. But the methodology here is we need to elect the guy who's mayor right now because he's going to save us from the guy who's not the mayor, wasn't even in the country, and whose supporters are, some of them are Eric Adams supporters, but predominantly they're making it about a Muslim thing. Well, Eric Adams let them do the call to prayer in the middle of Times Square. He signed into this whole thing. Eric Adams is your problem. And if by re-electing him, you further along these problems. So what you saw in the last 48 hours and what you've been seeing for the last 4 years, it only continues if you re-elect him. So New York City, this is going to be on you. If you fall for the controlling of the narrative, the perception management of one Eric Adams, to a certain degree, Trump and his surrogates, John Shell, remember, your eyes don't mistake you. They don't mistake you. And no, this was not an act of Islamists, jihad or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's a random guy. We don't know how random it is because things happen in Nevada.
I think he's a paid assassin. I think somebody in that building was killed on purpose.
He is not a jihadist. He's not. They try to make
I agree. There's no evidence that he's a jihadist, but I also don't think he's an NFL revenge getter. I think let me just flesh this out a little bit more, Sal. Because again, if a billionaire wants to kill somebody in their company and you shoot them in the office, that's going to get investigated very carefully and people can vary. But if you know that the mayor can be paid to allow your private security to come into the city against the law with concealed carry weapons, and the mayor can be paid, you can take flights to Turkey, and he's flexible when it comes to the law. If you're a billionaire and you want to get something done in that building, you go hire this assassin out of Nevada. You tell him one thing, you're going to come up to the 33rd floor, we're going to exfiltrate you this way and that way. The assassin kills who you want killed. Somebody else puts a bullet in the assassin's head and runs out with everybody else screaming from the building. And that's it. The assassin killed himself. The story gets buried. He shot up everybody in the building. I mean, why didn't this guy, if he had a manifesto, why didn't he just shoot up everybody on Park Avenue in front of the NFL building and say, this is for the NFL or something like that? I mean, this manifesto nonsense is garbage. They wanted somebody in that building dead for reasons that I don't know. Targeting of executives, that's exactly what happened with that United Healthcare guy. We don't know why. We hear this whole story about Luigi. Even the soccer mom says the video, it doesn't look like Luigi. It looks like somebody else did the actual murder. And you're right in saying that Eric Adams has basically destroyed that case. But Sal, we're almost out of time. Tell everybody where they can watch your regular shows and give us a last thought before we wrap it up.
Yeah, so again, I want people to think for themselves. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I definitely will show you different angles. And I like to stick to evidence and fact-based analysis off evidence, not just throw things up against the wall. Jason does the same. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about him and myself. But we try to bring you our opinions and our expertise on things. And to a certain degree, our track records prove we're a lot more right than we are wrong. So I'm just going to say that, especially kudos to Jason that actually went out there at night to show you how large of a crime scene it was. Just to tell people, crime scenes would be limited to the building, right outside the building. They made this thing the whole block. So they were really
Why did they do
diligent. I think it's because they want to trace back the steps of him where he parked the car, where it went, because it was like a 2-block radius where he blocked
No,
the
more
car.
than that. It
So
was it was 52nd Street is where the building is, and they had the whole area closed down. 53rd to 49th, it was like a 4 or 5 block radius around there. Tons of police, fire department trucks and things around. These are some sort of emergency medical trucks.
That tells me that the scene, there may not be telling everyone everything they know. Because if it's a 4-block thing, no, it should just be that whole area. Because the initial crime scene is then knocked down as in regards to, I believe, the borough chiefs. They make they basically determine how big and then how small they'll make it. You just initially make it, and then that's what you stick with for a while. So I found that interesting that you went out there to find that out. There was a 4-block radius of a shooting that happened in a building. There's a 4-block radius crime scene after the fact, which, I don't know. There's something that may not be said right now that we don't know about yet.
It really seems suggestive that maybe something else was going on in this area.
Something else might have been going on, which is why I think we saw someone being... First of all, I saw a woman in handcuffs that was run.
Right.
Which was ridiculous. Talking about amateur hour, whoever was in charge of telling those cops to do that should resign immediately. Chief, inspector, whoever you are, you have no business in the NYPD because you don't even know how that works. You never do that. You don't take a suspect in handcuffs and run them up and down the block in handcuffs with all the cops following. What? That was like a clown show. He did it 3 times. It was on Scooter Cat. What's her name? Freedom News.
That's what I'm saying. That
was ridiculous.
That was the first thing I saw. And I'm saying, see, that's them saying, look at this, look over here. This is what we want you to look at.
And it had nothing to do with that, because I kept saying, if a man's on TV or whatever, they caught that image of a male black walking around with an AR-15, which reminds me of Terminator, the scene when Arnold Schwarzenegger walks into that's what it reminds me of. Why are you then making it about a Palestinian, free Palestine? Those jerks are probably out there, and they could have been running interference. Who knows? Or they have their own separate agenda because they saw a lot of cops. There's 2 things going on at once. Of course, the shooter is the most important thing. Everything else seems to be the sideshow. Same thing like you see with politics, where Trump and Epstein.
This is the guy.
Don't look at anything else.
Sal, look at this image. So this was one of the first images that came up. This guy's got the Palestine shirt. It looks brand new, this Palestine shirt. And you look at the look on this guy's face. It seems ridiculous. We haven't heard anything more about this guy.
No, because it could be... See, that's the thing. You don't know. So those guys that were there, those Palestine guys that were screaming, and someone said, they were screaming it and walking in the building. But that's not the guy that walked in the building with the firearm.
Right.
So this is a completely separate secondary
distraction.
Incident. That's a distraction. So
and that
whole thing that occurred afterwards is a separate incident that is not being discussed.
Here's this woman
right
that you're talking about on
the
Freedom
woman,
News TV.
First of all, she was bleeding from the head. I saw she had a mark on her head, and then she's being run back and forth, back to the chief, and then back to some other side. It's ridiculous that you don't even run with people that are in custody because they could have medical issues and die on you.
She's got sandals or something.
I mean, what the hell? I don't even. You know how you do this, Jason? You call for a car. The car comes, picks up the
stick her in there,
and you stick her in the car and you leave with her. Why are you running up and down? Who is telling them to do it? Because they went to a chief or an inspector, someone in a white shirt that clearly told them what to do. That guy, time to go. I don't know how long you're having a job. You should be involved in your future. God bless you on your future endeavors. You don't belong in uniform because that is not what they tell you to do. You never do that. So I'm seeing things that I'm like, are these people untrained? Are they being told to do this? You have to be told to do this because they went to 3 times. So that tells me there's a whole nother incident that occurred here. I don't know if it's the same thing or it was something else, meaning they showed up later. There's some kind of protest we don't know about, and no one's going to talk about it. But clearly, those guys were screaming Palestine. And then the woman that came on and said, I heard them trying to go in the building saying free Palestine. That is the secondary thing. That is not the guy with the gun. So there's two things going on at once, and people ran with this whole narrative of Mamdani supporters, and it wasn't. And it's important that people, instead of being the first to run the things, like Benny Johnson, if you know, this guy should be like, I don't know, take whatever he says and a grain of salt, because he said he's a Middle Eastern. He parrots all these different talking points. He's just a disgrace of a human being with his hair plugs. And
well, he's basically the new version of the mainstream news, right? Obviously, somebody has realized that.
I want to know who pays this guy, because he's clearly another one pushing perception management. And he was one of the first that said all these things and called him a Middle Eastern man. I don't know what's Middle Eastern about an African American. That's news to me. But he was parroting the narrative. It is a Mamdani Israel-Palestine thing. And it wasn't. It wasn't. The people that are deceased, their families don't need to hear that it's about something that had nothing to do with anything. The guy, whether he's a paid guy maybe, whether he's an unemployed security guard that played football that took his car from Las Vegas to New York City to go do this. Why? I don't know. He claimed that the letter he wrote claimed he has brain issues from football and his NFL. That is the story. Let me
take you back to the police narrative part of it, because there's one last thing I want to show you before we wrap it up. I don't know if you remember me telling you about this guy. This is Victor Parra. He was arrested, something to do with an illegal moped. He's a Venezuelan illegal migrant, arrested maybe last May or something like that.
One of Eric Adams' chosen people, yeah.
Right. Next day, I'm assaulted by this person outside FIT during a Palestinian protest. This guy was adamant about covering his face with this keffiyeh and a baseball cap, and I was on a long zoom lens video recording him because it was just so conspicuous how much he was trying to cover his face. And so when the thing fell down for just a moment, I captured this frame of him. Looks a real lot like Victor Parra to me, almost exactly the same. And so it seems to me that the NYPD have the ability to insert these arrested people into protests. And this was another one of these things where the next day, lots of video came out from our friend Freedom News TV. They're controlling the narrative. John Schell wants to control the narrative. He wants to grab that book so that the soccer mom, Jessica Tisch, police commissioner, doesn't say something that allows the true narrative to get out. You see all these anomalies on the street in the moment at TPO, right? Time, place, what do they call that? Yeah, that's important, that TPO, isn't it? Because that's when everything is really kinetic. Everything is happening, and they're total confusion. They're trying to control something there.
They clearly are. You know, with these guys, they want to play hide the ball and then make it like, look at me, I'm the savior. Because that's Schell, Daughtry, Eric Adams. That's been their whole MO.
I'm the savior starts to go to motive, and I appreciate that. We want to speculate about the motive, but we don't know really if it's that I'm the savior or this is what we're paid to make everybody think, that it's this guy who is a crazy guy who went up there, and no, he's not a paid assassin, and no, this isn't manipulated media that we're putting out where somebody did a bad job in Photoshop. I mean, maybe it's difficult to see on this level of resolution, but I don't know if you can see what I'm pointing to here. See, normally, if this side of the table is a foot lower than the top of this marble, this side should also be a foot lower. Do we have a diagonal ramp here?
Well, I like to put out that picture, we don't know if it was a human being that took it or it's a screenshot from a security camera, which would be in a lens, right?
No, the lens wouldn't do this, Sal. The lens wouldn't do this. If the top, as you sit at this desk, if you were sitting in this chair, this is the left side and this is the right side. So if this is we see the arm of the chair is on top of this piece of wood. So ostensibly you'd be typing on your computer or writing on this. And so this would be an even height all the way across, and it's approximately the height of the arm of the chair. But here we see the left edge of it is up as high as the edge of this marble piece. And down here, as we go to the right, it's a foot lower than the marble. What the hell is going on? We've got a ramp right here. No desk works like that.
You know what else is not being said? I hope they do come up with the autopsy here, because I believe this man was heavily medicated. He is addicted.
Whatever they tell us in the autopsy, it's going to be the same person who told us that Epstein killed himself, the same kind of person who told us that it was Thomas Crooks on the roof in Pennsylvania.
One of the issues, but Jason, one of the problems is that every one of these guys ends up being someone that's got a history of pharmaceutical abuse, and that's how they hook people in. So you need to know if he was on that stuff when he did this, and who is prescribing this. And why? What is this guy's history? We don't know that yet. And it happens to be a lot of these people that do this have the same background. It's some kind of pharmaceutical abuse. We don't know who's prescribing it, what's their history. Not a lot. I mean, there are HIPAA laws, but in this instance, this guy's a mass shooter. He's a, domestic terrorist at this point. We should know what was his history on his pharmaceutical and his medical history. Why was he abusing himself? What was he on? So clearly, does this guy give any signs to doctors who he sees that something's wrong? Because that's how you control the narrative, is by controlling your people. So if you could control these nut jobs and activate them at the right time, this is the desired result for some people. If you're going to go down that whole conspiratorial hall, that's what I would do if I'm one of these.
I think they're controlling the narrative by controlling the media. That's why they don't want Jessica Tisch talking to the press about what's in the book. That's why they're giving us weird photos and weird videos of Palestinians. Just create all this confusion, because they know by now, that people like you and people like me and everybody on the internet is going to be looking at this and talking about this. They want to inject all kinds of confusing craziness in the early moments so that forever they can say, well, that's all a conspiracy theory and it's nonsense. But Sal, it's been another excellent show. People are going to follow you on X at the Sal Greco, watch you on the Finest Unfiltered podcast. Definitely go visit salgreco.com. You got to support Sal's independent journalism, independent commentary. Tap on this support tab. Send a little money to Sal so that we can keep the show going and Sal can keep himself in espressos and all that kind of stuff. You gotta get the fancy espresso over there. Sal, anything else before we go?
I hope to do a walk and talk with you soon. It was nice to have you down here. Definitely different locations. I like to once again applaud you and give you kudos. I think you're the godfather of the walk and talk. You have found a way.
The Mo Green.
It's an innovative way. I tell you, other people try to copy you, but no one is close to the way you do it. Rave reviews, by the way, by John Macari, who said he's got to find a way to do it himself. So you've started something, and there's others that have copied you or mimicked you. Some that gave you credit, but it's your innovative walk and talks and how you do it and how you're able to present evidence while you're talking, while showing things that could change at a certain, it's just, that's the new way of things going in the future. So kudos to you. And you came out right away. You showed that there's a crime scene that was 4 blocks for something that happened in one building. I don't know. I'm not used to that, but that's a whole nother story. So you do a lot of work, and people, they like to try to take a dump on you in certain aspects, but I'm a big believer in your work, and it shows. So, and I hope to do that with you soon. Hopefully, I can show my own producer, because I have my own ideas of trying to do this walk and talk, and because I think it's very innovative, and it's the way of the future. So you've been doing great work, Jason. I'm always honored to come on, and we always throw around ideas, theories, and our opinions. And some people, I think it's a thought crime, I guess, to give your opinion. You have to just follow Benny Johnson if you want to know the propaganda point of view.
Absolutely. Sal, thanks very much for coming on. Great to see you, as always. Thanks to everybody who sponsors Sal. And don't forget, you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. People who've been sponsoring on Odyssey, thank you to the small but growing number of people who are using the AR cryptocurrency to sponsor on Odyssey. People who've been on there for a long time, you've been getting the show for free for the past 3 months. So thanks to everybody who's gone to paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth and made a one-time sponsorship payment. You can also get onto subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'll be back tonight with Charles Ortel.